welcome to the Sharp Way Show. So happy to have you with me this evening. I know it is a little bit late. I'm usually on 7 p.m., but today is a special day. So it's a little bit past 8 p.m. on the East Coast. And if you're with me tonight, thank you so much. I have a very special guest with me, and you know it's going to be special, or you wouldn't be watching it. So do me a favor already. Don't waste your time. Do it now. Click that like button. It does matter wherever you are. Click the like. It is important. Please do so we can get past those algorithms that I require to get past so much. So thank you for your help. Today, I have with me this evening a journalist, an activist, host of Hard Lens Media, Iraq War veteran, USMC, just like myself, the man himself, Kit Cabello. How are you, sir?
It's good. Actually, we're making some history here.
Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. We are making some history here. So I've been doing this show, Hard Lens Media, since 2017, and I've been on a lot of fellow progressive left-leaning channels. This is the first time I'm on a libertarian channel. So there you go. And so I'm breaking some new grounds. It's about time it's happening. And just for everyone, for your audience, we've interviewed people from the Libertarian Party on our show, Greens, Socialists, Democrats, Democrat progressives. Not a single Republican, though, but maybe, I don't know, George Santos, wherever you're at, maybe you could
we'll see if we can grab him.
Maybe we can see if we can grab him. But no, thank you. Thank you. And I know recently you were on our show as well, and that interview is going to be posted on our TV show, Can TV. So I'm looking forward to, again, having our viewing audience on our TV show to check out our interview as well. So thank you for this opportunity. And for one Marine to another, it's good to see more of us out here on social media, sharing our perspectives or points of view. And I'm looking forward for a very robust conversation on this political nightmare called America.
It is Semper Fi, brother. And if you want to follow Kit, you can follow him on Twitter if you want to. It's at Kit. And if you're just listening, that's a K, K-I-T, Cabello, C-A-B-E-L-L-O. Or you can go to YouTube if you like. On YouTube, you can check him out at Hard Lens Media 99 on YouTube. Either of those two, you can check out what he's doing.
There you go.
The thing, Kit, that I like so much about you is you are really about truth to power. That is a critical piece of what you stand for. And because of that, I think that's one of the reasons why you like independent media so much and hate corporate media. Am I wrong on this?
Look, here's the thing with corporate media. You have institutions and investors and those with money, corporations controlling the media, journalism in particular. And they have no business controlling journalism or monopolizing off of it, because then reporters and journalists are then tied down, in which they cannot properly call out a corporation from abusing their power. The whole idea of journalism is to be that outlet to empower the people to know who's abusing them, who is committing crimes, who's abusing their power, so that they can be held accountable. But we don't have that here in America, where you have, I believe at this point, 5 corporations controlling 95% of the media on our landscape. There is no room for political discourse except for agreeing with the neoliberal soup that is presented to the American people, that is force-fed to us. And has, at this point, not to offend anyone, but take it however which way you want, corporate media has successfully brainwashed millions of Americans to accept what is presented to them and vote Team Red or Team Blue. And that's a huge disservice, which is why I like independent media. You got shows like yourself, you got Hard Lens Media, you got Revolutionary Blackout Network. I know they were on your show recently. You have the Jimmy Dore Show. You have the Convo Couch. You have a lot of people who are doing good. It's just unfortunate that also because of that, big media, corporate media, sees that people like independent media. So in turn, they use their influence to blackmail and suppress and control big tech, such as, again, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, in which their algorithms.
Piece now.
Favor that.
You up a very good point. Right?
So I'm ranting on. So there you go.
The point I like you just brought up is most people thought, right? Most people thought that when the shadow banning happened, it was only the right wingers, it was the crazy Trumpsters, or it was the anti-vax, or whatever, it was those people. But it wasn't that. It was anybody who was anti-establishment, to include the left, that did not want to just fall behind the Democratic Party line. And you felt that yourself, didn't you?
We have dealt with the censorship most notably on YouTube and occasionally, yes, also on Facebook as well. But YouTube is where we got hit the hardest. Everyone wants to say that right wingers got hit, and yes, to effect, that is what happened. We saw that was a lot of supporters. I will not dismiss that. But what's ignored greatly, it's not only people on the left. And I want to ask you, I should have asked you this before we went live, but obviously we know an individual, first name A, last name was a J, who has made a lot of conspiracy theories here and there.
Yes.
Is it right that I say his name on your show? I don't want to get you a hit with any kind of.
You can say Alex Jones. I don't mind.
Yeah, Alex. All right. I should have asked that. I should have asked that. But
it's fine. Yes.
But the thing is, that's one of the names you got to be careful what you say on YouTube, which again, I hate that. So when Alex Jones was first kicked off of the social media platforms, look, I understand for a lot of people, they don't like him, but that was the beginning. So when he was removed, that opened the Pandora's box for other groups that weren't covered by the media that got censored. I want to talk about activists. I want to talk people who are for freeing Palestine. I want to talk about libertarians. Libertarian pages were hit, and progressives were hit. But yet that has been swept aside because, if you're a Trumper or if it was Alex Jones, you get more media attention because, let's face it, corporate media will go for that shiny medallion of something easy to talk about while ignoring, hey, here's what libertarians are talking about. Here's what progressives are talking about. We on our YouTube channel alone got hit not once, but 7 times for BS reasons by YouTube. And we have, especially 2020 was the hardest because in 2020, we were building up the resources necessary to do field reporting, hiring more people. And now that's forever lost. And all those 7 strikes that hit us, there's a recovery time. We're still trying to recover from those 7 gut checks that hit us.
In 2020, when I was hit, my viewership went down 85%. I used to be able to get many thousands of views just on Facebook. Now I have to stream this live on 8 or 9 different channels, plus restream it on other channels to get the same number of views. Right? To the same number of views. That's how bad it is. I completely agree. By the way, you have a fan here. Steve says, now here, but big fan of Kit and RBN. Cheers. So you've got a fan.
There you go. Steve Wolfbrandt. He's again, good friend of the show. Glad to have him on board. Thank you for joining us here for this discourse, especially when it comes down to talking about the YouTube censorship.
Yes.
Look, the whole idea of independent media is to cover various perspectives, points of view, and covering stories that corporate media will not cover. But what everyone has failed to realize and acknowledge when it comes down to the influence of corporate media on YouTube, it is their ability to monopolize information which they can control. In 2016, we saw them first use that power to where the algorithm was systematically designed. So let's say people were watching your show or Jimmy Dore's show or Hard Lens Media. The algorithm would then make sure that after you were done watching a video from independent media, you would be bombarded with 10 or 15 other videos from MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. And that set up the notion that these are authoritative sources. But that mythos was broken, especially in early 2021, when we saw that CNN's streaming service went broke in a month. Because CNN,
I remember that.
Had the audacity to think that, because people are at least going to them because Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube has dictated, let's say, CNN, MSNBC, Fox as the authoritative sources, well, then that means people must love them. No, they don't. It's all manufactured.
You're right. Absolutely.
But then again, too, when we do look at the censorship, there's other insidious means. And I want to focus on YouTube specifically, in which a person gets censored, or either that they're no longer aware of what's happening to their independent media show.
There's something even bigger. Well, first off, Josh steps in and says it's 6 corporations. So I guess he's counted. It's 6, not 5. So thank you, Josh.
All right. Thank you, Josh.
But the point I want to bring up is it's not just that, meaning that even though that happens, there's also a cancel culture that makes it even harder. And I know you're more of a free speech absolutist. You're much more against cancel culture. And you said something which I love. You said, if I quote you right, you said cancel culture is a way for someone to feel important.
Yes.
Did I quote you correctly?
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about cancel culture. Look, I get that there are scumbag individuals out there, that there are
True.
bad people, but guess what? Life is not a liberal arts campus. Okay. It's not a college campus. In life, you're going to be running into a lot of mean people. You're going to be running into people that are straight up jerks. Okay. And I'm being polite about this. I want to at least not swear as much on here, but I want to be very clear here. Cancel culture, since 2016, especially when we saw it really ramp itself up, was another form of Puritanism, in which you must think this way, and if you deviate out of this in any which way or form, you are the enemy, you are the villain, you are the bad guy. Now, okay, to these especially left-wing SJWs, because there's also right-wing SJWs too. People don't talk about them.
Yep.
But we look at left-wing SJWs. They're acting the same way as the non-tolerant, extreme right-wing religious people would towards them.
Correct.
And the thing is, when it comes down to identity politics, when it comes down to social issues, a lot of people just don't understand. Now, of course, we live in a modern age.
Or don't care.
Yeah. And there's people who don't care. But the thing is,
either one.
You just can't be putting people on a chopping block because a joke has been said, or maybe somebody said something not correctly or used a pronoun wrongly. That doesn't require somebody to lose their job, or you have to be bombarded with somebody or groups of people saying, well, you're a villain, you're a bad guy. It's easy to do that. It's easy to be brave behind a keyboard.
Right.
But the thing is, cancel culture only benefits, dim-witted people who cannot think critically for themselves, because it's so easy to be afraid. Yes. And the thing is, the establishment jumped in on that when you have the Squad, AOC, the Congressional Progressive Caucus hide behind identity politics, making sure that they can't get any kind of criticism whatsoever. Because if you criticize them, then you're a racist, sexist, or misogynist, which is not true at all. The whole idea of a democracy is that, we are all equal, but we are all open to criticism. And sometimes there's a thing called constructive criticism.
Let's bring that piece up, right? There are 2 parts I'm bring up now. The one is, you are clearly not pro-Trump, but at the same time, you tease people about kind of having Trump derangement syndrome. So you're kind of, and most people I know who don't like Trump, they kind of had Trump derangement syndrome, but you don't, and you actually tease people who do. Tell me about that.
All right, look, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. Okay, I think the guy is a village idiot. I think he is clearly, especially with his first administration, he surrounded himself with people who were associated with Dick Cheney and George Bush Jr. So Trump, he is the symptom. He is the rash indicating that something's wrong with the body politics of America. He is not the architect of this economic political nightmare we're in. He is a parasite that benefited off of it from the architects who made it. Now, who are the architects? You got Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, you got Mitch McConnell. More or less, you have people who've been part of the Democratic and Republican establishment for decades on end, who have gotten close ties with Wall Street, big banks, and corporations who created tax loopholes and the ability to do insider trading to benefit them and their families. Now, Trump, I got to say this, he was smart. He was able to use and manipulate the system to benefit him and his family. Now, that everything that I said there does not mean an endorsement of Trump. It's just I have to acknowledge that he used a system that he didn't design to benefit himself. And he was, for a long time, people don't want to acknowledge this now, a diehard Democrat. He was a Democrat close with the Clintons.
I'm a New Yorker. We're both from Queens. I know Trump from years ago. Absolutely. You're right. Yes.
Now, the thing about Trump is he was the reaction to Barack Obama. And you have to remember, too, that he was encouraged by Bill Clinton before the 2016 election to run because, let's face it, people viewed him as easy. People viewed him an easy target.
Right.
But he was able to capitalize on something that hasn't been really acknowledged, and that is the bubbling rage of the American people who have been abandoned. If people understood the laws that were implemented by Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, people would be screaming bloody murder. Now, it's easy.
Hold on, let me touch this piece here because this is personal for me here, right? Obama was supposed to be the savior. He had the hope and change in his whole thing. He was supposed to be the guy who fixed. And I think, to your point, I'm agreeing with you. I'm kind of adding on to it. The fact that he wasn't anywhere near the savior, I think that hurt the country even more, because he was supposed to be the savior. The country bought it. We were all in. This is the guy. He's the savior. And he was nowhere near that. And I feel like that made things even worse.
The problem with Barack Obama is that he had himself a very good PR team, and he was able to sell himself as somebody different compared to, and again, look at who his predecessor was, George Bush Jr., who said, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, can't get fooled again. Let's face it, that's who he was coming after. And then he was going up against John McCain, and he had Sarah Palin as his VP. It comes as no surprise that this was a situation and a time that was tailor-made for anyone with two functioning brain cells to take advantage of. And so you have hope and change. People are excited. This is the opportunity of seeing a black man come into office.
Absolutely.
I'll never forget the day, I'm watching the election, and my grandpa's watching it too. And he's saying, I never thought I'd see a day when a black man would become president of the United States. This is very historic. And then when the election map came up, this is a little funny story, a little side note. He saw the state. This was 2008, by the way, when the state of Indiana turned blue. And he said, wait, Kit, what's the color of the state of Indiana for the Electoral College? And I'm like, it's blue. He said, oh, forget saying Barack Obama in office. I never thought I'd see a day when the Indiana would go blue for the Electoral College.
Right.
Because Indiana was always a solid red state. And my grandpa, he's like now, I think 96 years old. So he's seen his fair share of things. So Barack Obama comes in. He's supposed to be this ideal savior, but he doesn't follow through. These are the things that Obama never followed through on. He never followed through with a supermajority in the House and Senate, women's reproductive rights, anything in regards for Medicare for all, nothing in regards to holding those responsible for 2008 economic disaster, not holding the Bush-Cheney administration for the ridiculousness of getting us into the war in Iraq. He got rid of habeas corpus. We went from 2 wars to 7. So in comes in Trump, to the original point with Trump. He takes advantage of this and is able to identify with working class people. Here you got a guy who was born from privilege, speaking to people with how they are feeling. And for a long time, Americans have felt abandoned. So you get Trump into office. Trump comes into office. Nothing fundamentally changes, but also look what he has. One, we're in 7 different conflicts. Those kids in cages happened under Obama and Biden. Everything that is terrible in regards to American neoliberalism was covered up with the polished mask of Democratic and Republican establishment presidential individuals. Trump was very transparent. He told people that the system is rigged. He removed the fancy mask. He told people what we're doing. When it came down to conflict in Syria, he didn't give an answer about, we're there for freedom and liberty. No, we're here for the oil. We're here for the resources. That's the most transparent thing any president has ever said.
What you just said is the American people heard him. And this is the thing that people didn't understand. In 2016, Bernie was obviously ahead of the pack in the Democratic Party. Once the Democratic Party stabbed Bernie in the back, a lot of Bernie supporters, a chunk, about a third just said, fine, I'll vote Democrat. About a third said, I'm out, I'm done, I'm out. And about a third said, I'm going Trump. Now, people say, how in the world could a Bernie person go Trump? That seems impossible. Aren't their policies different?
Easy.
Do they think differently?
Easy.
But my point is, you go there because you went to Bernie because you wanted somebody who was an establishment. And Hillary Clinton was the poster child for establishment, right? I mean, she's the establishment herself, embodied. And then all of a sudden you say, well, I don't want establishment. That's what got us here in the first place, right? I don't want us here. I wanted Bernie. I can't get Bernie. So you know what? Hey, I'll go Trump. And I remember because one of the guys who ran my media team in 2018, he used to be Veterans for Bernie. And he came over my media team because he wanted a rebel in 2018 in New York. This idea, we've been trying to get a rebel or a non-two-person person or someone who's had establishment elected for years. We thought that was Barack Obama in 2008. That was absolutely not true.
No.
But we fell for that lie in 2008. We tried to get in 2016. And I feel that's the common denominator, us saying, I'm tired of the establishment. It's not working.
Okay, so there's a couple of things to unpack here too, and I do want to bring up one last thing though from the previous question. That is why I make fun of people who have Trump derangement syndrome.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry,
because they do. The reason why I at least poke at them, I say, hey, you're wasting your time. See, Trump's right now not in office, and the only way that man gets power is when you talk about him. He feeds off of it. He knows how to manipulate the media. He knows how to control the narrative. And the thing about people who constantly keep on saying his name, he didn't build the system we're in. And if you want to make him the end all be all villain, fine, but he didn't design it. And the more incompetence that we have in regards to our willing incompetence, malicious incompetence by our politicians, we're going to get somebody worse than Trump down the road. See, Trump, again, is the symptom of what's wrong with American politics. He was a Democrat before he was a Republican.
Yep.
He manipulated the economic system. He didn't build the system we're in. He is the reaction to it. And he's going to be running again in 2024. And I could say, look, I don't like him, but I would be surprised if he doesn't run again, because at this point now, he's trying to control his own movement from other Republicans from taking over. Trump is the reaction of failed American presidents and previous other, again, elected officials for constantly ignoring the American people and favoring big business and corporations and willingness to take corporate bribery. Trump used the system, and he told the American people the truth.
Dave actually says it right here.
Money. Yeah.
He says Dave used the tax code that was available to him. Dave's agreeing with you completely. He's on board. Now, guys, I want to ask if you're watching, do me a favor. If you're watching this on Twitter and you like it, then do me a favor, retweet this now. Retweet this now so that people can see it, so that we can keep growing. If you don't mind, please retweet it. It does help if you're watching on Twitter. If you want to follow Hard Lens Media, you can go to YouTube if you want to. Hard Lens Media 99. You can also follow Kit if you want to on Twitter. Kit Cabello on Twitter. And if you are only listening, it's Kit, KIT CABELLO, to follow him.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I want to move on to Bernie if I could.
Yeah. Right? Let's because I could tell you some stories about the reasons why I feel that people are disappointed and left Bernie to vote for Trump in 2016. It's and the thing is, Bernie, I don't think he understood that he had the same amount of power that Trump had in 2016.
Agreed.
There is a boiling rage happening here in this country, and Bernie, the exact opposite of Trump, at least at the time, instead of through rage, he was able, let's start a revolution. And he created something where he didn't realize people were going to go hook, line, and sinker to it. And they went to him in mass. And with Bernie's run, we saw Democratic corruption. We saw for the fact that they were willingly committing election fraud. Not once, but twice this happened to Bernie, where polling stations were shut down. The corporate media was doing everything they could to discredit him and ignore him. You had the Democratic establishment weighing in on it. Tulsi Gabbard stepped down from her position as being number 2 for the DCCC by saying, hey, this is criminal what's happening here. This is illegal. And she was vilified and turned into pariah.
Right.
Bernie fought all the way until the end of the convention, to where he gave up on his movement. He gave up on his supporters. I remember when Daniel and I were first getting started, we snuck inside the Wells Fargo Center. We didn't have press passes. We actually got inside there. We went in there and we saw firsthand, past security, what was happening to Bernie Sanders supporters and Bernie Sanders delegates. They were being violently assaulted by Clinton people, Democratic establishment people. They were being spit on, assaulted on. We interviewed Bernie Sanders delegates as well, and they were all telling us the same thing, that we were being kicked out, we're being assaulted, we're being harassed, they're doxing us, they're coming after our families. All the stories are the same. And with that amount of violence, as I walked out of the Wells Fargo on the day that Hillary Clinton was made the nominee for the Democratic Party, I heard people crying, being upset.
Sure.
And the thing is, you need those people. And after they've been assaulted, arrested, spit on, you're seeing regular people show up just to show up for solidarity for Bernie. It should come as no surprise that either one, people said, I'm not going to vote, or I'm going to
Right.
vote for the other guy because the amount of harassment, abuse, and violence that was projected towards Bernie Sanders supporters and delegates, to which Bernie Sanders himself ignored. We saw election fraud.
Yep.
We saw corruption. We saw the media put its bias in towards Bernie, and he did nothing because he wants to be part of the Democratic establishment too.
Well, that bothers me too, right? What you just said. Let me grab a quick comment if I could. Patty says, I've liked Kit for years now. Love that you have him on. When my old Facebook page got banned, I lost many of the connections I had. Well, Patty, now you can go to the Hard Lens Facebook page, go there and try to find some of those people there.
Well, actually, our Facebook page. Let me just correct that. So we still have our Facebook page, but now it's only dedicated to our other YouTube channel, Chicago Corner. So
okay, there we go.
So there we go. But Harlan's Media still has its Instagram. We still are on Twitter, and we have our wonderful YouTube page, Rockfin, Odyssey, Rumble, and Twitch.
There we go. Signet says, I'm here for the good convo about to happen.
All right, welcome.
That's very good. Dave goes on to say, life sucks at times. We have to deal with it. Yeah, and that's the idea of, free speech, of understanding that sometimes people are going to say things and we're going to have to deal with it. 100%. Denick says, interesting topic. According to NTD News, about 90% of media in the USA is controlled by 6% of corporations. Yeah,
okay,
that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Joel says, silencing hate speech hides the haters. Let them freely self-identify so we know about them. I've always said that too. I don't know how you feel about that, Kit, right? If there are Nazis out there, they exist, but not everybody I don't like is a Nazi. But if you're a Nazi, I would like you to wear the armband, right? I want to know where you are. I want to go, okay, there he is. There's the Nazi. Let me get away from that guy. Yep. And if you really are a Nazi, wear the armband, and I know how to avoid you. I mean, this is the type of thing that I'd rather have, right?
Well, here's the thing. All right, we're seeing people getting banned. But what happens is when you open up that Pandora's box, that means everyone's open. And then to your statement, well, everyone I don't like is Hitler. Everyone I don't like is Elon Musk. Everyone I don't like is Donald Trump. Everyone I don't like is Joseph Stalin. And so then all of a sudden, what happens is we're put into these different spheres. We're all more isolated, and it creates a problem. And it creates even a bigger problem because now those same individuals, let's say, okay, for example, Trump was kicked off of Twitter, right? Him and many of his supporters were also banned off of Twitter as well. Did they disappear overnight? Now, Trump's back on Twitter. He's not using it again because he's using his own thing, but he didn't disappear. Neither did any of his volunteers. And a lot of his volunteers felt like, okay, if Twitter's not going to be this spot, we're going to go here. 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 And the same thing goes for other progressives and libertarians and independent groups that were silenced and suppressed. Like, okay, if these platforms are going to do that, no one's going to disappear. You could silence and censor as much as you want, but the real people who are really violent, well, they're now hidden even more so. Shine a light. If you're going to be a jagoff, if you're going to be some sort of punk who's preaching hate speech, being violent, well, then, all right, let the whole world see what kind of real jerk you really are.
Absolutely.
So in that way, we know, hey, this guy's a scumbag. This person represents violence. This person represents X, Y, and Z.
But there's another piece I want to bring up to, which is actually more important. And this one is, why are so many, particularly young men, open to jumping on this bandwagon, right? What we should be doing is not saying, I don't want Nazis to talk or whoever the bad guy is, but I should be asking myself, why are these guys picking Nazis over me? Right? I'm giving you something. Democrats are giving you something. Republicans are giving you something, right? Everybody's giving you something, right? Bernie's giving you something. Trump's giving you something, whatever. Why are you picking the Nazis? Right? So what's happening in our world to where our young men are saying, no, that's the right answer. Or how bad is our messaging, or how bad is our system so the message can't get out, so we can't bring people voluntarily to our side?
I think what's happening, because it's just not like one group that's getting all the attention. I think what's happening is people are being blinded by what is being presented on big tech, thanks to corporate media. In which, okay, they're going to say this is the prevailing thought. For example, we talked about Trump derangement syndrome. Corporate media constantly keeps on talking about Trump. They keep on talking about Elon Musk. They keep on talking about, things that are hot topic issues, and it becomes parasitic. It becomes the main thing that consumes everything. Sure. And so this whole idea of, this one group in particular is getting everyone. That's not necessarily true. That's what's
Right.
being hyped up and being presented to the people. It's all one big show, and the star attraction might be something very scummy, but it may not have as influence or power as much as you say. The only reason why certain things have power the way it is because people have willingly let it have power.
Yes.
For example,
Absolutely.
Trump. You talk about him, he gets the attention. He knows how to manipulate it. He knows how to take advantage of it. Or when you have cancel culture from the left, or you have someone, some other politician, for example, trying to become the front page center, they're going to say something that will catch fire. That's 2 minutes, gets everyone attention, and it gets center stage.
Oh, AOC wears a dress.
Yes, tax the rich. But the thing is, everything does have a dying down, and people realize, well, wait a minute, this isn't it. This is just something that was manufactured and lied to me. Right now, what we have on big tech with corporate media, with the two-party system, is a show is being presented of manufactured consent, which the people do manufacture consent to. The people are consenting to this lie. They're following through with it, and they're being submissive towards what they're being bombarded with. And that's where I have to say to people, you have to think critically, because just because something's the front page on Twitter or is deemed a big threat, what else is also happening that's being pushed aside and ignored? That's the issue at hand. And when it comes down to Bernie, again, when we talk about Bernie, for example, Bernie Sanders, he did have the power, and he does have the following to actually make a change. In 2016, he could have done it.
He doesn't do what you say, right? Which you've been very kind of similar, critical of, but also respectful of Manchin, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not a fan.
No.
It's like, this guy's still using the system perfectly to manipulate everybody. Why won't Bernie do it? Why won't Bernie be the Manchin and get what he wants? But he doesn't. He just.
I think again. Look, and this is okay. I'm going to say straight up, this is speculation.
Joel says Bernie sold out. That's what Joel says.
Okay. That's easy to say that. And on one hand, yes, Joel, I think you're right. But there's probably a little bit more to this too about Bernie.
Okay.
When he started, it's like that scene from the Joker from The Dark Knight. I'm like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught one. Right. Bernie's message. Bernie was a dog that was barking, and he caught the car, and now he didn't know what to do with it. That movement that he had, and it garnered attention. And the thing is, he didn't fight back against what was happening to his campaign in 2016 and 2020, because I think he let the words of the media, and also maybe his unwillingness, his lack of confidence to follow through. Yes, this is now the thing is, if what happened to Bernie happened to Trump will be screaming, hey, this is happening to me. This is happening to me. And Trump did that in 2020. Bernie won't do it because he doesn't want to be vilified the way media took care of Ralph Nader. Now, it's another thing, too, because Ralph Nader was wrongly vilified for George Bush Jr. from becoming president. Bernie, in regards to Manchin is he embraces the fact that he's part of the system. He embraces that he is a corporate blue dog Democrat.
100%.
Bernie, even if he wanted to do a political revolution, I think he's too impotent politically and spiritually to follow through with the fight. He has.
You just pissed off a bunch of Bernie people by saying that. You know that, right? You made some enemies.
Well, it's a fact. No. But this is a fact about Bernie being impotent. He willingly gave up all his demands and concessions to Hillary Clinton in 2016 and in 2020. Did he get anything back in return from the Democratic establishment by him bending over backwards and slobbering at the mouth, begging for Democratic approval? Did he get anything back in return? The answer is no. This isn't a debate. This is a fact. Bernie Sanders in 2020, when he was part of Biden's team to get some progressive issues for Biden's campaign, none of that followed through. Anything in 2021, nothing was followed through. Bernie constantly kept on saying that he was his good friend during the Democratic primary debates, even though Bernie and Biden in the 1960s and 70s were never, ever in the same kind of spectrum or mindset. But because Bernie had, because we're going to go back to Trump derangement syndrome, Bernie having Trump derangement syndrome and fearing Trump Then look at the bigger picture of how much the Democratic Party would capitulate to Trump. Because while, yes, Nancy is saying, oh, I'm against Trump and everything else and screaming from the rooftop that he's a threat, in 2018, the House of Representatives allowed the Trump administration to have more power with NSA. The tax breaks are still going on. Insider trading was still happening. So in other words, Bernie, the party in which you sold out your volunteers and supporters and delegates to were working in collaboration with the Trump administration. Now, occasionally there were some political issues at events in which
hold on. I don't want to just all that. I got you. I don't want my Bernie supporters to be too mad at you now because you might have given them too much truth. You might have given them too much truth. Not everyone can take it all at the same time at one time. So no, I hear what you're saying, but I want to move to the next point, which is the two-party system.
Right.
And one of the reasons why Bernie has to do it is because Bernie can't really run independently, right? It's just not a thing. In 2018, I ran the largest independent campaign in 2018. And a lot of independent groups called me asking me, hey, how do you do it? What can you do? And sadly, I talked most of them out of it, not by trying to, but just by telling them how hard it is, right? What's so difficult? I remember Jesse Ventura was thinking about running for president coming up here. And he said, if you can get me on a ballot in all 50 states, I'll run. And I'm like, well, you can't run. The ballot access laws are so hard and so difficult, and the bias is so much against you. Running independent, the only person who can do it is someone who is literally a multi-bazillionaire who doesn't mind spending 8 years putting literally $2 billion into ads for 8 years straight, breaking everything and maybe even building out their own. I don't know what the thing is, right? I'm not a huge fan of Forward yet. I don't see it doing what it says it's going to do, but Forward has at least the right idea. It is Forward Party is going to take several years to build up to something. There's no other way of doing it, right? You can't just go on running independent. So I think that's a key piece when it comes to Bernie capitulating or Trump staying Republican, not running independent. It's a two-party system. It's a hard road to hoe.
Okay. Yes, it can be done with third parties. I maybe I'm being too idealistic here, and I'm prepared for any kind of pushback, but it can be done, but it may not be the absolute victory that would get a third party candidate to become president of the United States.
Okay. I think you're right with that. Yes.
But I think an impact is more necessary. And there was a window of opportunity possibly in 2016 in which if Bernie decided after the convention in Philly run as a third party candidate, he might not have won, and he probably would have that would have been the end of his political career, and then he would truly be vilified more so than Nader, which is again why he probably never did anything like that, especially for the Run Bernie Run. But a third party candidate can make an impact in which they could be on a debate stage and go toe to toe with someone for the Democratic and Republican Party. There may not be a victory, but it's got to get the people's attention, and it has to be better than what we saw with Ralph Nader or with Ross Perot. And I think Ross Perot was the last independent candidate to really speak out against the other two-party systems. And yes, back in the 90s, he was made fun of when he made the vacuum noise about NAFTA.
But he was kind of right.
People are laughing now because he was on the point with that.
He was kind of right. So yes, I agree.
That was the truth. So it's in regards to getting voter turnout and people being excited. Now, Forward Party, I have my criticisms of it. I think Yang needs to start clarifying his message more. I think so too, but he needs to start. In regards towards who could talk about the Forward Party, I know Kim Iverson did a far better job talking about the Forward Party than Andrew Yang did.
She's on that board.
Yeah, I know, but she should be that spokesperson. Yang, I'm not convinced. When he speaks about it, he does a terrible job selling it. Kim Iverson, she's on point. She knows how to talk about it.
I like him. I agree.
The Greens and Libertarians, they really need to double down on their efforts to really get out there. They just can't wait for a presidential election cycle and soon people will tune up.
Let me be clear. Yeah, the Greens have dropped the ball completely in the last couple of years. They just have not organized well. They have not spoken well. They have not advertised well. The Greens have dropped the ball terribly in the last couple of years. And the Libertarians, We dropped the ball in the lockdowns like there's no tomorrow. That was our time. We should have exploded during that time. We should have been the anti-lockdown party, and we should have done well, and we dropped the ball completely on it. That was our time.
I would say, in regards to Illinois, I am impressed with the Illinois Libertarian Party has done here, and they showed success. Maybe it wasn't the groundbreaking success that people would want to get more excited for a third party. But let me explain what the Illinois Libertarian Party did when I first checked the ballots, and I was surprised by this. And I remember interviewing a good friend of the show, Justin Tucker, who's with the Illinois Libertarian Party. He was telling me, hey, we're trying to get all these people on the ballot.
Yep.
And for the most part, all the independent candidates that were on the Illinois state ballot for 2022 midterms were predominantly libertarian. And for those and for your audience, Illinois is extremely draconian towards third parties. The Illinois Green Party at one time was officially recognized from 2010, but then afterwards, well, the Greens kind of dropped the ball on that one. Not being disrespectful here, Illinois Greens, but
I've watched a couple times. They have.
Yeah. So
comments. I got a bunch of comments.
Yeah.
Kim
so
says,
go ahead.
Everyone is very good at the big distraction. I think that's, you know what? You've hit it perfectly, Kim. Sometimes people are so concerned or worried about the world, they're happy to accept distraction because it's easier. It's easier to yell other guy bad, or it's easier to yell that guy's, a bad guy, than it is to actually deal with the issues around us. I mean, what do you feel about that, Kit?
I think the thing is that's again people lacking critical thinking when it's easy to distract. Like, okay, this is the bad guy. This is the bad guy. Here's the bad person.
Yep.
But my job as a reporter or as a commentator here doing this show, Heartlands Media or Chicago Corner, or giving my analysis on your show, is like, okay, give me the whole facts, because you just can't say, okay, this person is this way. What is the whole as a perspective? Because the thing is, when we talk about distraction, you have to remember how the news is presented towards us. Jimmy Dore in 2016, when he was still part of TYT, I remember this video segment that he did. He was looking at the reporters in the press area. And what were they all doing after covering a Bernie Sanders event? Click, copying, pasting each other's articles. And they did the same thing too at a Trump event. Click, copying, pasting each other's articles to where the articles were in verbatim, sounded exactly the same. Yes, maybe a sentence or paragraph was different here and there, but that's how the news and information is presented to the consumer, the voters, the people. It's all part of a way to keep you distracted and not asking more questions of, why do we have a corrupt system?
How come homelessness is so? You just brought up two different things, TYT and Jimmy Dore.
Okay.
TYT, I think if you go back a couple years, I think most people thought TYT was just kind of, that's where the left lives online. Like that, they were like the top of the line. I feel like though recently that's changed. Like TYT tends to be, someone said this once, they said they're independent media with a corporate media bend or something like that. Like it's kind of corporate media, but kind of not. I think that's what people have been calling TYT now. But meanwhile, Jimmy Dore, who came up with TYT, people think he's left, which he is left, but he doesn't like Democrats. He doesn't like Democratic establishment hates him. The establishment hates him. Does the establishment hate TYT? I don't think so. What's your view? You have experience with both of those. Tell me your view on those two.
All right. Well, let's face it.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong on this. So let me be very clear on my perspective of the Young Turks. They captured lightning in a bottle in 2015, 2016 with the Bernie Sanders campaign. And they were able to grow exponentially with that. But because of that, as soon as the Bernie Sanders campaign fizzled out by Bernie Sanders' own volition, by the way, because again, Bernie ended his movement, not the other way around. He willingly let that happen. TYT wants to remain relevant, wants to keep on getting access to politicians and so much more. So what do? They start building more closer ties because, everyone's so afraid of Trump and Trump's such a bad person.
Right.
They get that also coveted Katzenberg cash of $20 million. And as soon as Cenk gets that $20 million. What does Cenk do? Well, first, he starts getting rid of any other non-related news stories, like non-news channels, off of TYT. And while news can be hot, news can rot real fast like a banana peel, and then it's gone. It's no longer relevant. Yes, you could use it as a source, but Cenk got rid of all these other channels that could have been bringing in more revenue. Cenk started bringing in more PR teams, more board members, and so much more, to where, again, I've interviewed Jimmy Dore numerous times on my show. Jimmy said in one of the interviews, like, the environment changed at TYT. It was becoming more corporate. It was becoming more.
That's what I feel too.
It was becoming more. You couldn't be a rebel. You can't rock the boat as much as you did before. We got to be more in line, which is the antithesis of at least how I viewed TYT. But if you look at Cenk, this is what he always wanted. With the aftermath of the 2016 election, Cenk got what he wanted in turning TYT on how he viewed it. Now, in his own hubris, I think he assumed that people would still keep on following TYT, but he's telling people to vote Democrat, follow along. He helps create the Justice Democrats. And here's the important thing with the Justice Democrats. He helped make AOC and the squad who they are, along with Jimmy. Okay? Because the squad also went on Jimmy Dore's show, most notably AOC. Yep. When Cenk and Kyle created the Justice Democrats, they never had a contingency plan to make sure that said candidates, if they win, they would still be held accountable for their actions, so that if they were ever to deviate away or become more closer tied to the Democratic establishment, said Justice Democrats would be the death blow in ending them, and they would not have a future political career.
Yes.
But because AOC was hyped up and everything else happened alongside that, I mean, everyone was in euphoria. I was blind to that too. Mm-hmm. But then seeing as how
she's my congressperson.
Yeah. And seeing as how there is no way to rein her or keep her held accountable for her, or, again, following these, again, Medicare for all, student debt forgiveness, and so much more. She was able to deviate away from that, get very close to Mama Bear, and be part of the Democratic establishment.
Yes.
Yeah, she wears a dress at a Met Gala event, tax the rich, but hey, AOC, are you still crying in front of that, detention center area? Hey, AOC, are you going to ignore those protests and activists who interrupted your town hall when the fact that you're helping, aiding the Democratic Party?
Let me stay on TYT though. Let me stay on TYT.
Exactly. Yeah,
Patty says 100% what Kid said about TYT. I think Patty used to watch TYT.
Yeah.
Joel says, don't agree with Jimmy Dore, but I find him entertaining. Well, he is a comedian, so comedians tend to be entertaining.
Well, okay, so going back to TYT, eventually after a while, people start tuning out because they don't want to be tuned in and listening to how we got to vote Democrat or we got to vote harder. Oh, next time we'll get him. And Jimmy has been speaking truth to power about the Democratic establishment, how they're just as corrupt as Republicans. It's easy to go after Republican lawmakers. That's low-hanging fruit. We know what to expect. They're never going to fight for progressive issues. They don't care about Medicare for all or any other issues like that. They don't. Republican lawmakers don't. Republican voters do, though, but that's a different story because there's a difference between the voter and the politician. Yes. Jimmy is able to resonate with people because he knows that people are angry. He knows that people have been abandoned. He knows that, again, and I think your audience sees it too, we have seen it firsthand, homelessness is on the rise. Yep. The inability to own a home or rent an apartment, the ability to start a small business. Jimmy is reaching out to audiences and people who agree with that. And the thing is, TYT being no longer, I think, the relevant power that it once was, like 8 years ago, Jimmy is able to still resonate with people because the evidence is out there. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no denying the fact that the establishment is screwing people over, and the very people, progressives, that were elected in are willing to let that happen. And Jimmy is calling them out. They deserve to be criticized. Look at Force the Vote. AOC was quick to say,
I want to go in. You read my mind. I want to go to Force the Vote. You read my mind. Force the Vote. But before I go there, if I could, I'm going to ask people to do me a small favor. If you are watching this, support the show. Head over to theadvocates.org and support my sponsor. You can either go there and take the world's smallest political quiz. It's free. Takes like 2 minutes. Take it and post your results, or you can take any of the surveys. There's like 7 different surveys, one on identity politics, political correctness, one upon the military industrial complex, one on policing. There's all types of things you can take it on. Do one of those. They're about 6 minutes or so, and then share your results so that other people start talking about these topics. The advantage of these surveys and these tests are that people will start talking about these issues. So please do it. It's free. Not asking anything of you. It's free. There are sponsors. They support the show. If you want to support the show, do me a favor, heading over there. But not just that. If you like what Kit's saying and you want to support him, do so. Head over to his YouTube page. Hard Lens Media 99 is his YouTube page, or follow him on Twitter at Kit Cabello. And if you're listening to this, that is KITCABELLO. Please do that, guys. Every bit of help does matter. Please make that happen. So let me now go to force the vote, if I could, Kit. Okay. That was a big deal. I mean, there were a lot of people on the left who were like, you got, if those of you don't know what force the vote was, that was basically the idea of you want to put things like, and one of the big things was Medicare for all, to a vote, even though it will fail, even though it might fail, maybe it won't fail, but you want to put it up because you want all the Democrats on the record, right, to see, are you going to do this or not, right? Where are you going to stand on this, the idea of force the vote? But a lot of Democrats, establishing people, were completely against this, but a lot of average voters were. You were very much in favor of force the vote, and so was Jimmy Dore, but TYT not so much. Was that a big thing?
Correction on that one. Okay, so TYT and Majority Report were for it originally. Then
they were.
Yeah, okay. Originally. So let's be very clear. Originally, yes, but then a week later, I don't know. They decided to flip-flop on the issue and say, no, we're not going to support Jimmy Dore on this one. So let's talk about what force the vote is. First of all, Jimmy Dore didn't create it. It is an idea and a policy. It's an issue that can be done. DSA heavily promoted it, and Jimmy Dore just finds it, looks at it like, oh, okay, let's use this. This is something good. At the height of the pandemic, during the 2020 pandemic, the lockdowns and so much more, where Americans desperately need Medicare for all, where Nancy Pelosi's seat is up for grabs, let's put pressure towards Nancy Pelosi. This is what Jimmy Dore is saying. This is what so many others are saying. Let's put pressure towards Nancy so that the American people can at least get health care. We're the richest country in the world, and we don't have affordable health care. We don't have Medicare for all. Every other country's figured it out. Now, the thing is, the critics of force the vote would say, oh, if Nancy was able to do that, well, then it would die on the House floor. Well, gee, how about this twist? It would shine a light on all the heartless Democratic and Republican lawmakers that have gold-plated health care, that have a 6-figure salary, that have other wonderful social benefits. They're denying their own people, the American people, health care at the height of a pandemic. And we also learned this, too, that the squad is only squad in name only. The progressives, the squad, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, they're not unified. There were 15 congressmen and women who were on the force the vote petition who theoretically could have pushed Nancy for putting force the vote, Medicare for all, on the House floor for a vote. They could have done that. And this whole idea, this whole propaganda that McCarthy would become Speaker of the House, only if
I remember that story.
That was never going to happen. The only way McCarthy would have got, again, Speaker of the House is if Democrats broke rank and voted for a Republican, okay?
I remember that.
But here's the thing. If there wasn't a consensus and the Democrats had a majority, they'd have to keep on voting again and again and again and again and again and infinitum. That's what would have happened. There was no way in any scenario McCarthy would be Speaker of the House. I'm going to say that again. McCarthy would not have been Speaker of the House in 2021. Agreed. They could have used that, and they chose not to. AOC, TYT, Majority Report, and anyone else that was vote blue, no matter who, was quick to silence critics. And
I want to go to the next level if I could.
Go ahead.
The piece you're bringing up here is, Republicans in general aren't for Medicare for all, so they would have voted no matter what, right? That's fine for them.
Yeah,
most of the constituents would be fine with it. They're not going to pay. Republicans will not pay a price for not voting for Medicare for all. Only Democrats would, in theory. And I think that's why the establishment didn't like it, because they didn't want to pay the price that they would have to pay, because they don't want Medicare for all. So they would go against it. But let me now go to you. We've talked a lot about the system, so a lot about the two-party system and things of that sort. You are personally for Medicare for all.
Yes.
Do you feel that there should be a still private insurance, or do you feel it should only be Medicare for all and there should be no private insurance? Which side? Because I know some people say Medicare for all, but you can still have private insurance. And some people say, no private insurance. It's only Medicare for all. Which way? Where do you stand on that one?
I understand that there might be some conservatives or Republicans or libertarians, like regular voters who are watching this, who might question Medicare for all. And I'm not here to change people's minds.
But you might. Go ahead, please.
But I want to be very clear on why we need to get Medicare for all, the kind of gold-plated healthcare that you see in Canada or in the European Union or in other places where someone isn't put into medical bankruptcy. These insurance agencies are not there to help you get better. They're there to profit off of you and collect money. And until they have to pay out, they will abandon you. I have seen so many horror stories of people who looked at their insurance company to help them out, and they did everything right their entire life, only to be abandoned. We have seen firsthand how big pharma and the healthcare insurance industry will do everything it can to deny healthcare to people. Now, I know that there might be some people who say, well, that's not going to happen to me. I'm okay with my insurance agency. Then why is it right now here in the United States, with all the power, with all the advanced medical technology we have, the increase of homelessness is because of medical bankruptcy? One bad day in this country and you lose it all. Our health care, the insurance agencies are tied to our jobs.
Yes, but the question I'm asking you, though, I'm not going on that road. The question I'm asking you, though, is does that mean you feel there should be no private insurance company? So if I'm wealthy and I don't want Medicare for all, I would like to, because I'm a rich guy, I want to buy my own insurance. Or maybe I run a company and I think I can do my own. I can support my own insurance within my company if I want to, and I want to do a third party administrator, and I don't want to use Medicare for my people. Do you feel like, no, there should be no private insurance? It should all be Medicare for all. Or do you think the system should be a hybrid system is the question I'm asking you.
My compromise would be click, copy, and paste what you see in Australia. Then that's the second place I would go for. If people
Australia.
Because they still have, again, they have public health care, but there's also the private system that's in there too. And that's the best thing that's the only compromise I would be at. My personal opinion, get rid of the private healthcare insurance industry, but I'm talking about how I feel. After seeing how people I care and love for have been screwed over by the private healthcare industry and how it's tied to our jobs, that if you lose your job and people get fired, you don't have health insurance. If we're going to talk about implementing a policy then that would be acceptable for people who maybe are questionable of Medicare for all, then let's go for the Australian system. Then let's go for that.
Be right.
That's my real opinion, my full honest thing. Abolish private health care because of what has happened to so many good people in this country. There we go.
I tell you why I worry about that, and it's because of what you and I experienced at the VA.
Yeah.
Right. My worry is you get rid of all private insurance and get rid of all private hospitals. You don't want them getting Medicare for all. You want them giving VA for all. And VA for all is not something that I want. When it comes like if you break your leg or something, the VA hospital is actually pretty good with something like that. Right. But mental illness, addiction, long-term care, all those things, the VA is terrible.
It's designed that way because when you look at the military industrial complex that takes a majority of our money, our treasury, the healthcare, the VA healthcare system, similar to any other agency out there, when it comes out to education or anything else, gets only breadcrumbs. The reason why the VA healthcare system is the way it is is because it is given such minimal amount of resources necessary to provide quality care to our fellow comrades, our brothers and sisters who served in the Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force. And it's, I don't want to think that our politicians are doing this on purpose, but the way it is designed, it's malicious. And we hear from these politicians how they talk about giving necessary resources to VA. Not really. They don't. They don't do it. I mean, from my personal opinion, is if you served in the military, be it 4 years honorable discharge, or you served your 20 years of service, well, then I feel that you deserve to be taken care of the highest quality of healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
the VA doesn't get that because our government budget does it on purpose. It does it on purpose to make sure it doesn't work properly. And that's how I feel about the VA. It could be better, but look at the amount of money that's given, that the budget gives to the VA. That's my real issue. And you bring up some valid criticism about the VA. My experience with the VA has been very good, but I do also am well aware of the nightmare stories there.
Yep.
And again, it's because of lack of accountability, and again, lack of proper resources necessary to make the VA function in the way it really should for veterans. And
I looked in America right now, and what I see is in New York City, at least, I see a 2-tiered medical system right now. The wealthy don't go to doctors who don't take insurance. They go to the doctors who don't take any insurance at all. And the people who are not wealthy go to whatever doctor is in their insurance company's, world, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And the wealthy either have, as you said, gold-plated or Cadillac plans, which will reimburse them in some way, shape, or form, but they pay back cash because they're wealthy. So they do that. And a lot of wealthy people in New York City, obviously. And my worry is, if we move towards a Medicare for all, am I going to be pushing the best doctors out of the system? Right? Will the best doctors simply say, you know what? I'm not being part of the system. I'm private only. I'll take no insurance. Good luck, guys. Does that happen? My
rebuttal towards that is, if we look at how other countries handle that, who fully embrace Medicare for all, the doctors have not been pushed out. And again, when we look at the overall health of other citizens,
yes,
and including mental health, the fear of poverty and being homeless,
yes,
it's not in their mindset. In America, it is. In America, we have people taking Ubers just so they're not charged the ambulance fee to the hospital, which is a very real thing. In America, giving birth to a child at the bare minimum, you can walk out with $30,000 in the bill by giving birth to your kid, or dare I say it goes up even higher if there's complications or so much more.
New York's done some stuff to try to stop that, right? New York now, it is literally illegal for you to go bankrupt, or even go into collections for medical bills anymore in New York State. That's against the law now. So they stopped that. If you are a child, you can be covered no matter what, right? If you're under 18, you get coverage no matter what in New York State. I forgot, Healthy Child Plus or something like that.
Right.
So New York State's done a lot to try to make that better. But the worst part is, as we've done that, our budget's gotten higher and people still keep leaving the state.
Well, you have to look at, again, why people are leaving states like New York or LA or even California. Look, Illinois has got the problem too. And what you have is a tax system that is designed to really benefit the top 1%, that is designed to help out corporations to ensure that they don't pay their fair share. And it's in turn that's being put on working class citizens, homeowners. Here in Chicago, for example, if you look downtown, the corporate buildings and large law firms, they don't pay the most. It's the homeowners and people here in Chicago, the regular citizens, that are stuck with that bill. And the thing is, major metropolitan areas, it's expensive. Dare I say it, it's expensive to be poor in America. It is extremely expensive. And with the lack of economic opportunities, with the lack of affordable education and so much more, people do abandon these areas trying to look for greener pastures. But the problem is, there are no greener pastures left, especially when you You have corporations and the wealthy buying land, buying housing, and so much more. You have banks buying houses. You have corporations buying houses. You have rich people like Bill Gates buying ridiculous amounts of farmland. The average American citizen barely has $1,000, and I'm being generous as that, $1,000 in their savings account in case there is an emergency.
I think it's actually $500. I think you are being too generous. I think it's $500.
All right, then I stand corrected. I stand corrected on that. Yes. So there's a lot of variables that have been working against citizens so much to where, okay, we want to do Medicare for all, but we have parasites, and that being corporations, and corporations writing the laws that benefit them, that are denying health care to the citizens. So we're in which then we as citizens are then forced to be working these dead-end jobs because heaven forbid we lose our insurance. So we have to bow our heads and be subservient to a corporate system that keeps us in line. That's not the American dream. That's a god-awful nightmare. Stay in line with the system and be obedient, or you'll lose your benefits. That's not freedom. That's something else entirely.
Yes, but isn't that systemic on both Democrats and Republicans, right?
No, of course.
Something, which I love. You said Chicago is often called a communist nightmare, but it's not. It's actually a neoliberal nightmare, is what you called it.
Right. So
that's a difference. That's a difference, right?
Well, let me explain the situation here in Chicago. All right. And Fox News doesn't really help out with this statement about the city. Look, Chicago has its problems. I'll be the first one to admit it. Yes, it's my home, but I know that there are bigger issues than it being a communist utopia, which it is not. All right. So Fox News, use a thesaurus, find different words besides communist. It's not socialist. It's not Marxist. It's not Leninist. Now it is in theory, Leninist, Marxist, and socialist and communists to the top 1%, because the rich are really getting by here just fine.
Yeah. We have socialism for the wealthy. We do.
But the issue here in Chicago is you have the Democratic machine here, and it's a well-oiled corporate machine that ensures that, number one, the city is functioning as a hub to benefit the Democratic establishment. The people are not designed for that system. They're there to be pawns for it, in which they can, again, get the majority vote of support. Chicago being a neoliberal system, we have to understand, being a Democrat in this city doesn't mean you're a Democrat. You don't have to register as a Democrat to run for office here in Chicago if you're looking for Chicago politics. You could say that you are, but no, you're not. You don't have to do that. You just put the Democrat name at the end if you get into office. At the end of the day, this city has been heavily privatized. This city is heavily segregated. It's hyper segregated.
Yeah, you brought it up before.
And most importantly, it is the corporations that have the final say with the office of mayor, because the office of mayor is the end-all, be-all seat in this city. And in the wrong hands, with somebody like Lightfoot, for example, you have unchecked corruption. You have a rampant rise of crime. You have schools being shut down. You have neighborhoods being gentrified and being bought up again by large real estate developers. It pushes out people who've been working and living in the city for generations. This is not a communist utopia. It is a goddamn nightmare. It's a corporate nightmare.
So let me walk down that road then. We're going to have to find a way then, if we want to make that work, right, to make changes. Mm-hmm. Right now, the corporations still run everything, right, regardless.
Agreed.
And that's the way it is right now. So here is my difference between myself and I think most people who would identify as being on the left. Most people who identify on the left think that corporations are evil. I don't. I think they're apathetic. They don't care at all. I think they would kill you or not kill you, just make money. They don't care. They don't want to hurt you, but if they hurt you, oh well, doesn't matter. I think they're apathetic, and there's a difference. I think if you created the right incentive, that you might actually have corporations do good things, not because they want to do good things, but because the incentive was correct. I think they move towards incentives. I don't think we can get rid of corporations. I don't think it's possible. I think we've had them for hundreds of years. I think we're still going to have them. So wouldn't I rather, instead of trying to destroy corporations, wouldn't I rather create a better system that would encourage corporations to do the right thing? The example I'll give you is You made a very valid point. You said corporations right now are buying up land. They're buying up land because it's the best investment for them. They don't want land. They want good investments. So if we were to instead stop trashing the interest rate forever, so they could actually get some decent bond rates, they might buy bonds and they might actually support local businesses. If we were able to have a fund like they do in Singapore and in Norway, where businesses could buy into funds that would maybe support schools or support education or support Medicare or something like that, wouldn't that be a better bet than saying, let's somehow punish corporations? Because the corporations, they will write the law that punishes them, which means they're not going to be punished.
I think, okay, so let's be very clear with what we see here in America, because what we have, yes, they are titled as corporations, but what we have is an institution that is pro-oligarchy, that has bought out the media and the political system.
Yep.
Now, when we're talking about these mega corporations, these large institutions that have bought the system, I think what people want to see is for them to break apart the monopoly that they have, to break them apart to where they are not these giant monolithic things in which they control everything. Because we're talking about, there's a difference between maybe a small business and the monolithic institutions that we are living under. And I say we break those things apart. Now, those things are evil. They bought our media and they bought our two-party system. They control everything. They control the scale. I get that people want to maybe start a business. I get that people want to be independent. Hell, Hard Lens Media, that's my business. I want to make sure that it grows and becomes successful. There's a lot I want to do. But what I don't want to live under.
20 years from now, I'm going to call you corrupt when you replace CNN.
First of all, how dare you compare me to CNN? I at least want to look myself in the mirror. CNN lost $250 million for their also fantastic streaming service. How dare you?
Good point.
All right?
Good point. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm sorry. No, but I think people saying that corporations are evil. I think people are talking about what we have that we're living under. Now that is evil. We got to break that apart so that the regular person, your viewing audience, my viewing audience, if they wanted to do a business or do a worker co-op, there is an environment that's open for competition. What we have right now is something that is open to none, only except a select few that are dancing and drinking because they believe we are weak. What I would say is we have to focus on breaking the large monolithic corporations and getting money out of politics. I'm all on board for small businesses. I'm all on board for, especially for worker co-ops, which I think are far better than unions. Okay. And that's a conversation maybe for another day, but with worker co-ops, you have people
I agree with you. I'm a big fan of that.
And yes, there are major corporations that do good, but I'm just going to name one that's probably the exception and not the rule. Take, for example, Costco, a major corporation, right? A big in retail. Look at how it treats its workers compared towards Amazon or Walmart. Costco, for example, 401k healthcare plan, dental, health insurance. I used to work at Costco, okay? And the thing is, that used to be how businesses treated their workers. Get people to support it. The business takes care of people. They do good by the people, give them a living wage and increase it over time. People will say, hey, I like working here. You're keeping your worker here because your worker hey, I give my all in. I get something back in return. What we have right now is a machine system. Take, for example, Amazon, for example, or any other major corporation that constantly wants more consumption and craps and rolls all over its workers. I mean, let's look at how Amazon has treated its workers for now. But
Amazon's they're starting to get pushback from their unions. I mean, that they're here in New York City.
It's starting to happen. There is that, but how much more ground has the unions have gained so far? I'm impressed with what they've done. I get that. But there are so many other issues in which the Amazon labor union can do so much more. What I recommend for you, Larry, is check out the work that Indie News Network has done in regards towards talking about the Amazon labor union. And if you want, I could get you in contact with them and I could show you that article that they did in regards towards what Amazon labor union could be doing more for the union groups there, trying to hold Amazon accountable. Because in all reality, ALU should be.
Roger says, Larry, you told RB to support co-ops. I do. I actually have a plan to support co-ops in New York State. I had it when I ran for governor. use that to replace corporations. But I don't want to replace. I want to create a world to where people choose what is best for them. Not everybody wants to have ownership in their job. Some people do, some don't. I want to give people the option to have that if they want to. I want people to be able to create co-ops if they want to. The biggest problems we have with co-ops right now is actually cultural. Most finance does not believe in co-ops. So co-ops struggle to raise money, which is why I was talking about creating an environment to where you'd have much more local credit unions that'd be supported by local entrepreneurs who'd be more open to support co-ops. I do think the biggest issue with co-ops is the idea that most financial institutions do not think they will work. And if we change that mindset or give them more opportunity, I think you'll find people who can. But to your point, if you have a co-op, you don't really require a union because you're all worker owned, right? And it puts democracy into your business by default. But maybe you don't want to be in a co-op, then be in a union. I think either one of those will work. Unions with corporations are fine. Co-ops are fine. Either. I just want them to be voluntary. That's my biggest issue.
So what you want is an open platform where there is the choice for any person to make their own choice, whether it be a union or being a part of a worker co-op or with a business that has a union, et cetera, et cetera. Is that correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
All right. So here's the thing. I'm speaking to Roger Meadows, and he's the one who's really convinced me on the need for worker co-ops. I understand that maybe not everyone, because here's the thing. The problem right now that we have here in America is that people don't know that there's something better, because you have people that have been trained by the media, by our education system, that you work at a job, this is how it is. Unions, for the most part, they've lost their teeth. But with worker co-ops, I think what would get people excited is that they get educated more about it, that they learn more about it. Now, RBN, they're doing a segment where they're talking about various worker co-ops, and all these things are small. They're not getting enough attention. And I think if a light is shined on worker co-ops and the good that it could do, I think that could inspire other businesses to do more and maybe not do a worker co-op fully, but maybe like, okay, if I take care of my workers, I'm going to get X amount in return for their hard work for this business to succeed. And if this business succeeds, they succeed with me. Worker co-ops
but I want to go one step further. I want to be able to have a government that would support a worker co-op. For example, I own a restaurant, and I have 12 people who work for me.
That's extremely radioactive restaurant business right there.
Yes, and I want to leave. I want to get out of my restaurant business. I don't want to be in it anymore, right? I want to sell it, or I want to quit, or whatever. Why can't a local government give me a tax break on my sale if I sell it to my workers, if the workers want it? Now, maybe the workers say it's a dead-end restaurant. I don't want it. I'm out. Bye. Or maybe my restaurant sucks because I've been in it too long and I'm burned out. I don't want to do it anymore. And maybe my workers can figure out.
Or you need to update your menu. That's my Chef Ramsay right there.
Or I got to update my menu, but I'm too old and crotchety and I don't want to do it anymore. Okay, fine. Then I could sell it to my workers. I still get the cash that I want. The government does not get the hit up front, but now my workers, they now own the restaurant. Those types of things we don't even discuss. That's not a thing that we talk. And I talk about it all the time. I'm okay with voluntary co-ops all day long. I think they're a good idea. I want more ownership in our world. I think ownership in poorer communities is the answer to helping out poor communities more than anything else, is giving people the option to own. Some will not want to own. I want to force ownership when people don't want it. But a lot of people do. And when you see the immigrant groups that have done well in America, most of them have done well because of ownership. The more ownership we give people, and of course, co-ops bring democracy to the workforce. So you have less opportunity to have tyrants. I mean, you're still going to have tyrants because tyrants will always exist. Yeah. But you're going to have less opportunities for tyrants, less opportunities for crazy bosses, and more opportunities for people to be involved in their own work.
Yeah, I just also wanted to say here too, because you mentioned the word tyrant, and the thing is, like, the original definition, a tyrant, the whole definition and meaning was absolute ruler. And I think, it came from the Greeks, and sometimes the tyrant wasn't necessarily a bad person all the way, but I think obviously, history has a way of changing words, which is why, again, I'm kind of irked when I hear Fox News say Chicago's a communist utopia, but it's not.
Right.
Horrible choice of words. To say it's a neoliberal corporate nightmare. There you go.
Let me go to Josh. Josh says, what does Kit think about universal catastrophic coverage? And that, by the way, was my answer. My answer was, I'm not a big fan of Medicare for all because I want what the wealthy want. I want to get what the wealthy get. So I want to give people the opportunity to get the best private health care they possibly can wherever they want it. But the government can create a safety net, which is a universal catastrophic coverage. That if you get in trouble, that you will not go bankrupt. Because if you get cancer or have a heart attack or something, the government will cover you there. But for your day-to-day work, you can make it happen. And my example I use is there is a secondary medical field that is right next to our primary field, which is non-essential care, right? Cosmetic dentistry, LASIK eye surgery, body enhancement and such. And in every single case, service has gotten better, accessibility has been larger, pricing has come down. When I was a kid, nobody got cosmetic dentistry unless you were like a movie star. Now anyone can get it, right? No one got LASIK eye surgery. You had to do it per eye because it was so expensive you couldn't afford both eyes. Now less people get it. So I feel like if we were to make that a plan, but the plan for the government would be the safety net plan, I feel like that's a plan that more people would accept, that insurance companies would accept, they wouldn't fight, and that we'd be able to get more doctors, more doctors. The best doctors go to everybody, not just to the wealthy. That's my view. I don't know. What do you think about this?
I would say, again, I said my opinion, how I feel about the private healthcare insurance industry. I after how I've seen people get screwed over by it, my personal feeling,
yeah,
abolish them as an institution. However, if we're talking about implementing policy and building things in this system that we have that is not perfect, my compromise would then be, all right, if obviously the healthcare insurance industry, they're here, people want private healthcare, I get it, but we need to have gold-plated Medicare for all. I will go for the Australian system that is there, that's present. At least their people aren't suffering through medical bankruptcy, unlike our people who go through it all the time, which is the leading cause of homelessness in this country. One bad day in this country, and you lose it all. I mean, let's look at the warning lesson of Heisenberg from Breaking Bad. Okay, if he didn't have to go into medical debt, he probably wouldn't built that crazy empire that he had. But then again, you would not have a TV show. But the thing is,
there's no TV shows, right? Yes.
Yeah. But the thing is, you have that scenario in which millions of Americans are facing that. Do I go to the hospital? Or do I self-medicate myself? Do I call an ambulance, or do I wait for an Uber that might get here maybe 15 minutes late as I'm bleeding out? I mean, that's the way I view healthcare in this country. Is what we have here doesn't work and desperately needs to be abolished. So my compromise, as I don't like it, and we have to look at how people feel, because again, I'm just giving my perspective, but I have to look at how another person feels. I would go for the middle ground of going for Australia, because at least Australia, they're not number 36. The United States is number 36 in regards to quality healthcare.
Yep, I agree.
We're not on the top, so I'll go for Australia. So there you go.
There's no doubt you and I agree the system does not work. I completely agree. Absolutely. Yeah. So let me go to something else.
Wait. Actually, Josh Maddox writes in there, Switzerland has private insurance, but they are nonprofits.
Yes.
There you go. Thank you for that.
I think you could do a nonprofit model also, right? I think you could. I like, that's the reason why I like the idea of, the reason why I like the idea of catastrophic coverage. And Singapore pays for that because they have a massive fund that has almost $1 trillion in it. And that was my point. Create a massive fund for banks to put money into. They stop buying up other things that people want instead. They don't buy up farms that people want. They don't buy up homes that people want. They put money in a fund that gets them a dividend. And that fund then pays for things like catastrophic coverage. And then if your laws say you can't go bankrupt because of medical bills, you kind of solve that one problem that you're talking about, which is the problem of someone going bankrupt. You can solve that problem. That specific problem. You can't solve the Uber problem you mentioned, but you can solve the bankruptcy problem with catastrophic insurance and a fund. That can be done with that, and doesn't even raise taxes. But let me move to the UBI model, which a lot of people like the UBI model. UBI scares most libertarians. But many libertarians, while they don't want UBI, many libertarians will accept a negative income tax. I don't know if you know what the difference of the two is. UBI obviously
let's actually hear it. Let's hear it.
Yeah. A UBI is just everyone gets X dollars, whatever that money is, right? Everyone gets X dollars per year or per month, whatever that is. They just get the money. A negative income tax is you create a barrier. For the sake of argument, I'm making this number up because of New York State. The barrier is, I mean, the line is $36,000. Anyone who makes over $36,000, and again, that's a number I made up. You could change that number, gets nothing from the government. And taxes is only on every dollar you make after 36,000. So under 36,000, there's no taxation. 36,001, you pay tax on $1. So you only pay taxes after 36,000. Under that, no taxes. If you make under $36,000, you will get some money. How does that work? The base you get is $18,000. And for every dollar you make, your monthly stipend goes down 50 cents. So you can work your way off of it if you want to. And there is no benefits cliff. Whatever benefits you get, you still get. In today's society, once you make $1 over the amount, you lose everything. So you're basically trapping people into staying at a lower level because they can never move their way up. With this, you can work your way up. You keep your benefits until you get 36,000, right? And you keep going up and you slowly wean your way off. This way, millionaires, billionaires don't get any money, and people are incentivized to work their way up into something. Is this type of a system something that someone like you would be open to?
Well, I'm open for any type of UBI, or actually see it work properly and not have it be means tested or in a way that is then yanked away from people. So, for example, what we got here in America was a big middle finger. We've never seen a full functioning, well-working UBI, say for fact for some smaller cities or towns that at least had some kind of way to make sure people were going to be, getting it properly. But the sad fact is, when it comes down to UBI here in America, we have to look at the individuals that are going to be running it. Mm-hmm. And the way anything's run here in America so far, it opens the land up, or said area up, for unchecked corruption and also mismanagement. So let's be clear here. UBI, I'm all for it. What you presented sounds like a great idea. The problem would be said individuals and departments that would be put in charge of it. And that's why, again, I say we got to get money out of politics before we talk about doing UBI. Because, again, everything that we presented here, healthcare, UBI, helping out small businesses, it's all great. But if it's being run by the very same system that we wake up tomorrow morning under, it will fail and be probably cast aside if the politicians get their way. UBI can work. We did numerous stories of UBI working successfully in other countries in the lockdown. UBI in America can work too, if certain things did take place in 2020. If there was a debt jubilee, for example, if people were pardoned from their debts, because you had people locked down in their houses, but guess what? They still had to pay their bills. But they couldn't go to work. And so if they couldn't go to work, they couldn't get the money to pay the bills or pay off any kind of debts or to their creditors and so much more. And for the some Americans that did get a stimulus check, well, that thing evaporated as soon as it hit their bank account. It did not last. And, not to give Trump credit here, but, he did want to do a continuous stimulus check, mm-hmm. to which Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats used as a political weapon and say, no, we're not going to do it. And a reason why that the House of Representatives weren't going to vote on it because it would have helped Trump. It could be politicized against said party if they want to give American people a UBI. I remember Joe Biden promised us $2,000. We never got it. And before anyone types in the comment section below, 600 plus 1,400, that's the 2,000. Number one, that's not how things work. Number two, that happened under Trump. And three, yes, I am the Fox News stereotype. You said you were going to give me $2,000. I want my goddamn $2,000. I'll take that $1,400. I'll take that $600. But you did promise me $2,000. Where is it plus interest? So again,
I like that. It's good. I like that.
Yeah. So there we go.
Good.
That's the one time the Fox News stereotype will work, because you promised me $2,000. Give me the money. Give me the money now.
Like that.
Stop making promises. But to what you presented, it sounds good, and there could be more that could be done to help out people. So yes, I'm all for a UBI. I'm all for, a way in which, people's lives are made
by the
better.
way, it's on my website, LarrySharp.com, if you want to check it out. It's literally on there. The system's actually on there. The plan was actually already put up for something in New York, because I know a lot of libertarians don't like even negative income tax, but I realize that our system is broken and we have to fix the system somehow. And by adding more bureaucracy, that's just not going to be the answer. And I'd rather trim the bureaucracy than and still give something with the trim bureaucracy than try to add some new rule to somehow fix something. And to your point, create more corruption, create more problems, and then people still don't get helped.
Right. And the whole purpose of UBI is to help. I want to say this, just bring up this one segment from an article that we covered about UBI in 2020, 2021, and it had to deal with people in Canada who were getting a UBI. And one of the individuals said, yes, I do miss going to work. I do miss how things used to be. But this UBI brings so much calm to me, because I don't have to worry so much in regards towards helping out my family and my household. It helps, and it helps alleviate the stress of being, in debt or not having enough money to buy food or make sure everything's paid for. UBI can work, but it's first of all, we need to make sure that if it's going to be implemented, it's in a way in which to help people, because in all reality, Americans want to make sure that they build something. Okay. People don't want to just be dependent. There are individuals who want to just be dependent and not do anything. I get it. They exist out there. I get it. Yep. All right. Nobody's perfect.
They're dependent no matter what. Dependent no matter what. They find a way.
Right.
I agree.
But the thing is, vast majority of people, you really ask them, they want to build something of their own. They want to have something that's tangible, that's right before them. People need help and a boost up, not just to be dependent of ball and chain, but a boost up to make themselves known, to have something that's for themselves. I've had people come to me, for example, who say, oh, well, what are you doing this thing with Hard Lens Media for? Why are you trying to do this thing with the studio? Why are you trying to do this and this? Do you know what's going to happen? I'm like, this is a risk. What I'm doing is a risk, but I believe in the work that I'm doing here for Hard Lens Media, and I believe in what I'm building here. And on all honesty, in everyone's private moments, people feel the exact same thing too. They want to have something, they just haven't found it yet.
Of course. Yep.
But right now, you have so many Americans working at jobs that will eventually become automated or AI.
100%.
No one really has the ability right now to really get out of this rut that we're all in, thanks to the politicians that designed it that way. See, the villain.
But hold on. So let me go to the next piece then, if I could. This is the last piece I want to bring up. One thing you and I, no matter what, we have two things I think that are in common. One, I think we both want to help people because we realize the system is broken. And two, I think we both agree the two-party system is not working. Right? Those are two things I think we 100% agree upon. So let me walk down that road. I always want to go independent. That's why I want to go libertarian, because it's the closest party to me. Would I go forward? If the party would work for me in some way, maybe right now it doesn't seem libertarian enough for me right at this moment. But would I? Sure. I was endorsed by Yang and the Forward Party this year when I ran. Where does someone like you go? If the Democrats and most people who are on the right think that everyone who's a leftist is the same as a liberal and they all vote Democrat, they believe that. You and I both know that's not true. Mm-hmm. So where does a leftist go then? Where how do you find a home? Or do you stay home? I mean, what do you do?
All right. I know that most of my viewing audience is burnt out by electoral politics, but here's what I tell people to do. And I'm going to tell you what I do. This is me. And I'm not telling anyone else to follow my example. If you like it, fine. Each state is different in regards to if they can vote for third parties. Some states are more open and progressive for having third parties on the ballot, independents on the ballot. Others are extremely draconian. Illinois is the middle ground. What do I do? Where do I go? Now, I'm fortunate enough to have a state in which I'm not politically homeless. I vote third party. Now, what do I mean by this? In 2022, I did vote for the Libertarian candidates, and if there wasn't a Green Party candidate. If there was a third party candidate there, I voted Libertarian. If there was a Green Party candidate there and there were some races in which there were no Libertarians, hey, I voted Green. I also voted for anyone else that was independent or non-affiliate. Why? Because I believe in consistency. I will not waste my vote for a Democratic or Republican lawmaker. That's just me. So that means if I say,
no, I'm behind you. Everyone, listen to him. Kit's right. Listen to him. Do what he says.
Now, the thing is, this is not an easy thing to do for people because so many people feel politically homeless. Or is it that a lot of our fellow Americans have been thoroughly trained and brainwashed and have confidence and wasted time, or not wasted time, but sacrificed time. There, that's a better word. Sacrificed time to either supporting Democrats or Republicans that they feel they're obligated to do so. You don't. So when I look at my Illinois ballot, for example, in 2022, I saw a Libertarian candidate for governor, voted for the Libertarian. Same thing for everything else. If there was a third party candidate there, I voted for them. Not because I'm a diehard Libertarian or a diehard Green Party supporter. It's because I feel it's my obligation as an American to go for a choice that hasn't screwed me over and that is actually trying to fight for a belief of more diversity and more political choice. The second thing that I do in regards towards voting, and since I live in Illinois, my state is a ballot initiative state.
Yes,
and there are
God, I wish I was.
There are 24 states that are ballot initiative. They'll remove the, if you're a Republican voter, a Democratic voter, or independent, third party, doesn't matter. Remove that political identification. If you are given the choice of a question, for example, in Kentucky, the choice was brought up, protecting a woman's right to choose. The people of Kentucky, in a solid red goddamn state, voted yes to protect a woman's right to choose.
True.
You ask a voter a question, they will vote for it. Remove away political identification, voters will vote for it. Same thing like, again, cannabis legalization in my state.
Perfect example. Yep.
All right. Happened here too. So my thing, or what I would say is, if you feel politically homeless, vote third party. If you want to help out third parties, help organize or help build movements or help rally or build up said third parties in your state. And that means also working in collaboration, in coalition with other third parties so that the state allows you guys to be on the ballot and, dare I say it even further, be on the debate stage. If you live in a ballot initiative state, know your rights as a voter and find out about the good ballots and, yes, the bad ballots to vote against so that your state and your fellow Americans, your fellow voters know, hey, these ballot initiatives here, this thing's going to help out homeowners. This thing will legalize cannabis for recreational use. This thing's going to protect women's reproductive rights to choose. And let's stop this vote that's going to make cannabis illegal or stop a woman's right to choose. Go for ballot initiatives. And if you live in a state where there are no third parties or ballot initiatives, then you will have to fight for it. And if you're alone, then you got to do it alone. But you won't
I'm
be
with you.
alone.
I'm still fighting for third parties here. I'm with you. Absolutely. Guys, if you want to support this show so that we can keep fighting, then go to theadvocates.org and take one of the surveys. Another one out there. There's also the National Security and Foreign Policy Survey. Take that. It's all good. Whatever's going to work for you, take that if you could, or do the world's most political quiz. Support the show that way. I keep asking you because it does matter. Hit that like button if you haven't already. If you want to subscribe to my YouTube page, subscribe to the Sharp Way. I know I have a couple YouTube pages. I know I do. I've got like 4. But the one I'm asking today is the Sharp Way YouTube page. It does matter. Every one of those matters. If you're doing that, please do so. If you are on Twitter and you haven't retweeted this, why do you hate me? You need to retweet this because I'm asking you, so please do that. But lastly, support Kit for coming aboard. Kit Cabello on Twitter. That's KITCABELLO. Or head over to YouTube and follow Hard Lens Media at Hard Lens Media 99 on YouTube. Kit, I want to say thank you so much for giving me so much time tonight. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Glad to do it. I actually got another conference call I have to do in a little bit. I've been working since 9 o'clock in the morning. So there you go. I probably
Look at you, hardcore, brother. I love it. But that's okay. We're entrepreneurs. We have to keep working. That's how it works.
There's never an end. So I think as a final note too, look, vote independent, vote third party, support ballot initiatives, and if that's not in your state, then fight for that to make that into reality. If you live in a ballot initiative state, know your rights as a voter. If you want to help do something, help build movements and organizations that will break away from the two-party system. It can be done. It will not be an easy road, but it can be done. And also support independent media and break away from corporate media propaganda.
Chad says, love what he's talking about, not voting for the ones who screw us over. You got some fans. The scientific libertarian says, I vote libertarian, then other, then against incumbents. So he's kind of on your page there with that one. That's good.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kit.
Sorry, one other thing. Roger Meadows brings us up. Roger Meadows corrected me. There's 23 states. Kit, remember, Kira did the show where Mississippi lost their ability to do it until the state legislator corrects it. Chances are they won't. So, folks, if you live in a ballot initiative state, also fight to make sure that your state remains a ballot initiative state.
There we go. There we go. We got a good chat. I appreciate it. Guys, everybody, thank you so much for watching tonight. I'll be back on again tomorrow night. So I hope I will see you all